Hi guys, I wanted to cover something that I think needs to be covered. Ghetto stories. You know, I'm from Jamaica. I don't know if you know Baby Sham. Real ghetto stories. Hey. So let's go. I can't sing DJ or rap, so just my go at it. But anyhow, I want to cover a few stories that happened, back in the ghetto and why it is that I left Jamaica. I did not live in the ghetto in Jamaica, but in Jamaica, it's hard to not be ghetto adjacent because there's always a ghetto at least 2 or 3 miles from you. Always, always. Like, it's too small an island and there's too many people who are living in poverty. And one story happened in the 90s, and I wanted to bring it up because what I wanted to show with this story was the fact that sometimes when people are striving to level up and improve themselves, the ghetto is actually the worst place to do it. It's absolutely worst place, especially in Jamaica, because in Jamaica there is a term called bad mind, and it's normally jealousy, and what would happen is there's this crab in the barrel mentality. And there's several stories I can think of, but the one that always stuck with me is of the peanut vendor. Peanut porridge. He sold peanut porridge. And this is somewhere in Kingston, near to somewhere called Maxfield Avenue. Now, in Maxfield Avenue, there's a lot of crime. That area is known for poverty and crime. It's like a lot of depressed areas around there, a lot of zinc fences, and lots of teenage pregnancies. It has everything that you can think of as a ghetto, right? Poverty, you know, lots of fatherless children, lots of murders. It's horrible to live there, right? And I remember that there was this young guy back in the 90s. I think it was more like closer to the late 90s, who wanted to start up a peanut porridge shop because he learned how to make peanut porridge. Now, peanut porridge is a very hearty breakfast, and when he made it, people were really attracted to it because he really made it well. And this word on the street was that he actually learned to make it from his grandmother, and it was a family held cooking secret, recipe secret, and he basically was really doing well. Now, when you're in those areas and people just set up, it's not like you get a license or you get a permit or anything like that. People just probably get a cart, they perch on the side of some road, a busy road, and they start to sell. Now, this young man was there and his business was, he just started. It was a few weeks and his business looks like it was doing well, and he's in poverty, right? And I can tell you, he was selling these peanut porridges. From what I remember, would be the equivalent of 50 cents US, right? But it means a lot to him when you look at the per capita income in Jamaica, which back then would have probably been about 3 to 4 thousand US dollars a year. So he was trying to sell as many peanut porridges as he could. And of course, with these small businesses, what happens is they're extortionists. So a young guy who did not want to work thought, hey, if I can just extort from this young man who's just as poor as both of them are poor, that could be his hustle. So he went in and told the guy, hey, give him the equivalent of maybe about $2 a day, and he'll protect him. And the guy said, hey, I just started out, I have no money. So they were reasoning, and the guy said, okay, just give me a peanut porridge. And so every morning he'd go and this thug would go and get a peanut porridge free. And that went on for about 2 months. And, on the one fateful day, the peanut vendor said, hey, you know what? I don't like this. I mean, I'm barely making any profits here. You know what? I can't provide this to you anymore. And you know what? The thug just went for his gun and shot him point blank. And a lot of people, I think now people would have forgotten that peanut vendor. People close to it would have remembered. But what it taught me there as a young man back in the 90s was that the ghetto, and I'm not saying this is the ghetto in the US. I can't say that, or the ghetto in Canada, but the ghetto in Jamaica, which I know very well. There, what it meant was that it was you not only had to become enterprising and had to develop some plan, but you also had to figure out how to evade your very neighbors and how to make money in peace. And that's something that hurt me back then, because it taught me that a lot of times the ghetto is not just about oppression and racism and from the upper classes. It's also internal oppression, groupthink, and this crab in the barrel mentality, which tries to pull everybody back down. And that's why it's so hard to survive in those places if you want to be progressive. And, I remember a young man told me years ago, he was a messenger, a bike messenger. And this was in the early 2000s. And he told me, hey, when he gets paid every fortnight, he got paid bi-weekly. When he got paid every fortnight, he would basically not go home that Friday evening, because he says there'll be a bunch of guys at the corner waiting for people who got paid, and they'd each ask them to buy them a beer. And he said, listen, he can't keep doing this because he's not even earning that much. So he would actually not go home on a Friday evening. He would actually sleep somewhere else and go home on a Saturday. And I wanted to tell you guys about this because this is the inner workings of the third world country, and the inner workings of the inner ghettos and impoverished areas within that third world country. And these areas ensure that the people in those garrisons or those ghettos remain poor. And that's why a lot of people escape and they go somewhere. Well, there was a saying, I think it was years ago, it was a song in Jamaica, who can run will run, but what about those who stay? And that was by Buju Banton. Because the people who can leave normally do leave. And the reason why they leave is because they need to grow and they need to thrive. And that's why people like that are not fearful of racism, because they have encountered real threats to their own person, threats to their lives. And when you come across that, those people become abominable, and they're not walking around scared of microaggressions or that. They don't care about that. What they care about is feeding their families and peace of mind. And so sometimes I just wanted to get across the mindset of someone who leaves a third world country, and why it is that they will not be caught up in victimhood. They just won't, because they have too much that they have seen, too much that they've experienced, too much they have heard of, too much they've been in close proximity to care about such things. What they care about is feeding their families, being safe. And you know what? This is the mindset that they have. If the fire department is not hiring because they're racist, they go to the police department. If the police department is not hiring because they're racist, then they go down to the DMV. If the DMV is racist, and they keep going until one day they get a job. And when they get that job, they understand how precious it is, so they work hard at it and they ensure that they keep it. And so I just wanted to make sure that we focused on why it is third world immigrants, the mindset, and why it is that a lot of times they just don't adopt that victim mentality. Thanks.